Welcome to today's webinar, where we will be discussing how SONIC is paving the way for open networking. Throughout today's webinar, if you have any questions, please put them in the questions and answer box, and we will be holding a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Open Compute Project, or OCP, and more importantly, three of our key members, Broadcom, Edgecore, and Stordis. So let's meet today's speakers. My name is Steve Helvie, and I'm the VP of Channel for the Open Compute Project, currently based in London, and I've been with OCP now for a little over 6 years. Kamran?
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Kamran Naqvi. I'm Principal Network Architect for Broadcom, based in London, and I lead this open networking initiative for Broadcom, covering the whole of EMEA. Thank you.
Matt?
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Roman. I am the VP of Marketing and Product Management for Edgecore Networks, and I have a specific focus on open network technologies. Welcome, everyone.
And Łukasz.
And hi, good morning, good day. My name is Łukasz Łukowski. I'm working at Stordis. In the past, I've been also working together with Matt. We are focusing at Stordis as the open networking as well, and we are one of the solution providers under the OCP project. Thank you.
Great. Now that you have met our speakers for today, I just want to emphasize one key theme that you'll see throughout today's webinar, and that is the spirit of a community. These three organizations work very intimately with our open networking project. And within an open source community, you're going to get that collaboration, and you're also going to get that pace of engineering. And that's certainly what you're seeing in open networking on the hardware side, as well as SONIC. The Open Compute Project itself is over 240 companies, 8,000 engineers across the data center, compute, storage, networking, and the facility side itself, and approaching 200 contributions. Throughout these working projects, there are four key tenets that drive everything that we do, and every contribution is measured on these four key areas: efficiency, growth, scale, and openness. So keep those four tenets in mind. They will be on display throughout today's webinar as Kamran and Matt and Łukasz share their respective areas. So with that, I will turn it over to Kamran to begin today's session. Kamran?
Thank you, Steve. Let me start by introducing Broadcom to the people who do not know who we are. Broadcom essentially is a major manufacturer of networking solutions, specifically semiconductors and infrastructure software. We are absolutely a technology company. Most of our employees are engineers. We have more than 20,000 patents, and we take a lot of pride in our culture of innovation and research and development. You can see the numbers on the screen. We invest more than 20% of our revenue in research and development so we can continue this pace of innovation. That's who we are. That's Broadcom. In the networking world, Broadcom is known as a merchant silicon company. Merchant silicon means open silicon, which means it is not vertically integrated to one product or a vendor. Now, Broadcom is considered a leader in merchant silicon. All mega scalers, talk about Google, Amazon, Azure, Facebook, Alibaba, all of them have built their data center switching based on Broadcom silicon. This slide gives you an idea of why this is the case. Starting from 2010 with a 0.64 terabit per second silicon, we have been doubling the bandwidth and density of silicon every 18 to 24 months over the last 10 years. And that's exactly what these cloud guys have been looking for. And that's how we are known as a merchant silicon company. Now, how this is relevant to today's discussion, what is the benefit of a high performing silicon to an enterprise customer? Let me explain that on this slide. What you see on the left-hand side is a Facebook backpack switch, which they introduced a few years ago. It's a 128 port 100 gigabit per second switch. And at that time, they had to use these 12 silicon and this modular chassis to make it work. What you see on the right-hand side is what we have today. With a 12.8 terabit per second chip available, we can have all this performance in a much smaller footprint. So you can see how this innovation in silicon has simplified the hardware. And this simplification in hardware, not only that it leads to dramatic reduction in system cost and system power consumption, it also leads to simplification in software. Why? Once again, look at these 12 silicon. Making these 12 silicon work together, interoperate together in software is a very complicated task. And that is where a lot of bugs are introduced. That is where a lot of issues are introduced. So when you simplify the hardware, it becomes very easy to write software for it. And because of these innovation in silicon, because writing software has become easier, we can see there is a plethora of open source network operating systems out there. You may have heard about Stratum from Google. You may have heard about FBOSS from Facebook, but Sonic is the one that has been getting the most traction. Sonic was introduced or developed by Microsoft, and they initially developed it for their own Azure cloud, but they made it open source in 2017. Broadcom has been working with Microsoft and Sonic community since early days. Today, Broadcom is the largest contributor to Sonic and Psi project, as you can see in this pie chart from Microsoft Keynote. What has been our contributions to Sonic? So Broadcom initially focused on the Psi layer to enable Broadcom silicon to work with Sonic. But since 2019, we have been working on the entire stack of Sonic, including the application layer. We introduced this whole new management framework to Sonic. We also created this platform development kit, this PDK. What this PDK does is it dramatically reduces the time to enable a new hardware platform in Sonic. So now you can bring up a new hardware platform in a matter of days, rather than taking weeks or months to bring up a new hardware. In early days of Sonic, a lot of focus was on megascaler. What Broadcom has done is Broadcom has introduced these enterprise class features like multi-tenancy with VXLAN EVPN, telemetry, flow analytics, and an industry standard CLI to enable enterprise customers to adopt Sonic easily. And there is a commitment from Broadcom that as the next generation of silicon becomes available, we will continue to support it on Sonic. So Broadcom is essentially democratizing open networking so that everyone can benefit from this revolution. Let's talk about Sonic architecture. So Sonic, one of the reasons why Sonic is so much popular is because of its architecture. As you can see, it is based on Linux, and there is this Psi layer in Sonic, which essentially acts as a translator between the silicon and the software. Psi is essentially making Sonic independent of hardware, and that is why Sonic can work with Broadcom silicon, but it can also work with Mellanox silicon, Innovium silicon, Cisco silicon, and so on. It makes Sonic a disaggregated operating system. If you look at this top layer, the Sonic layer, you will notice that Sonic has a microservices-based architecture. Each main component is packaged as a separate container. Now, this containerized architecture brings certain advantages, two specifically. Number one, because of this containerized architecture, it gives us serviceability. What does it mean? So if you need a bug fix or a security patch in the DHCP feature, you only need to carry out that work on one container. without impacting any other feature running on the system. So just think about it. This can dramatically improve the availability of a network. Similarly, it enables extensibility. So adding a new feature is as simple as spinning up a new container. So remember I mentioned that Broadcom introduced, excuse me, Broadcom introduced a new management framework in Sonic. Well, guess what? We added a new management container for this. So the beauty of this approach is that you can add new features into Sonic without mucking about the base core features of the operating system. And with this open management framework, we added support for open APIs and transport protocols like GNMI and RESTconf. We also provided a lot of standard-based OC-YANG models, so the customers don't have to do screen scrapings or scriptings. They can leverage these OC-YANG models. They can use standard DevOps tools, or they can, if they choose to, they can get off-the-shelf orchestration solution to easily manage their networks. Sonic means choices and freedom. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Sonic deployment at a large enterprise customer. As you probably already know that at Broadcom, we usually work through our partners to deliver technology to end customers. But over the past 18 months or so, we were approached by a number of customers. And they said, look, we know you have helped enabled megascaler networks, and we know you are actively involved in Sonic initiative. We want to embark upon this journey of deploying Sonic in our data center, and Broadcom, we want you to help us. So we agreed to helping a select few customers. And in this section, I'm going to focus on Sonic deployment at one of the large enterprise customers. Now this customer, they are a global enterprise. They have a presence in 5 continents. And they have a history of mergers and acquisitions. So they have around 24 business units, which do totally different things. So as you can imagine, security and isolation is very important for this customer. Their incumbent solution was from a popular OEM, and it was not meeting their business requirements. The biggest complaint they had was that the solution lacked agility. Why? Because there were so many bugs in that operating system, the customer was even scared of making a small change in their network. And because of the legacy architecture, it was very difficult to scale that network. Like all other customers, this is a cloud world, so they explored moving everything to cloud, only to realize that cloud was not as cheap as they initially thought. Yes, it was suitable for some of their application where they did not need as much control, and elasticity was much more important for them, but moving everything to the cloud was not an option for them. So they decided to go on a hybrid approach where they will use some application in the cloud, but most of their core business application would run their own data center. What were some of the customer's objectives? So they were very clear on one thing from the very beginning. They wanted to break free of OEM shackles, in their own words, right? And they wanted to eliminate all the vendor lock-in. They wanted open APIs to manage their estate. Another important thing for them was automation. They wanted minimal intervention from their network admins right from day 0 and onwards. Multi-tenancy was also very important for them because of the isolation requirement between different divisions. I mean, these divisions were more or less working like independent companies. They also wanted to limit the failure domains. So if there is an issue in one pod, it should not propagate to any other pod in their fabric. Okay. So when we compared these objectives with Sonic capabilities, as you can see, we got a tick in the box for every section. So obviously there is no vendor lock-in with Sonic. We can do microsegmentation, we can create different availability zone, we can control communication between VRFs by selectively route leaking. And in terms of flexibility, there is a lot of flexibility how you want to manage this solution, right? So whether you want to have a traditional CLI and SNMP based approach, or you prefer a DevOps model, or if you want a complete key turn orchestration solution, all of these requirements can be fulfilled thanks to the modern management framework and the ecosystem support in SONIC. So early last year, customer went in production. After completing a POC, just before the COVID months, they started deploying SONIC switches in production. In terms of topology, no surprise there, customer has deployed a 5-stage clause topology. They're running 100 gigabits between their leaves and spine and super spine. So all the uplinks are 100 gigabit. They're using Trident 3 based switches for leaf, and their spine and super spines are Tomahawk 2 based silicon. And as you can see on the slide, they are using this multi-pod architecture. And they have this concept of this pseudo pod, they call pod 0, which acts as a super spine layer. So as you can imagine, all inter-pod communication goes through this pod 0. Now, in terms of the logical config, they are using VXLAN EVPN for multi-tenancy. No surprises there, yeah? But there was a lot of discussion around the selection of the underlay protocol. You have two options with SONIC for underlay protocol, right? You can either choose OSPF or you can use BGP for underlay. In my experience, customers with service provider background prefer option 1, as they're used to having a separate IGP underlay. So whether they're using ISIS or OSPF for underlay, and for overlay, it's BGP and MPLS VPN based overlay. They like it because this gives them a nice separation between underlay and overlay routing tables. Second approach is what I call the public cloud approach. This is the approach of using minimum number of features and minimum number of protocols to make your network as simple as possible. So for routing protocol, there will be only one option, that's BGP. So for this enterprise customer, we had a lot of discussion about it. So discussions, testing, and finally customer made a decision of going with a second approach, i.e. they are using BGP everywhere. So they're using RFC 7938 based approach for BGP underlay. So different AS number for super spine layer and spine layer and for each individual leaf. And they're using BGP EVPN for overlay. As I mentioned earlier, segmentation and security is very important for this customer. So except for some trusted VRFs, all inter-tenant traffic, which means all inter-VRF traffic, must go through firewalls. The way it works in their setup is that all inter-VRF, inter-pod traffic is filtered through pod 0 firewall, as shown in this upper diagram. Whereas all the inter-VRF traffic within a pod, it goes through the pod firewall. So what is the deployment status? Deployment is ongoing, and so far they have deployed just over 1,500 switches. This slide is slightly old. Now they are at 1,500 switches. It is not going at the pace they wanted it to. They would have liked to have a lot more deployment, but that is the COVID world for us. Everything is a bit slow. And their plan is to scale this to 4,000 switches, COVID permitting, by mid of next year. So what are some of the key benefits that customer has achieved, right? So now they have been in production for nearly a year. What they have observed is that their network availability is greatly improved. They did hit some issues, but number of issues they hit in SONIC fabric is dramatically lower than what they observed in the legacy network. And remember, that is during the time when the network churn in SONIC fabric was far greater. So they can definitely see that having a streamlined and simplified network increased their network availability a lot. The automation has improved their productivity a lot. It's a lot simpler and easier for them to manage SONIC estate. But the biggest gain for this customer has been in terms of performance. So moving away from a 3-tiered legacy network, their application performance has improved many folds. And given there are no workload placement restriction in this VXLAN EVPN architecture, their server utilization has increased a lot. Now their server utilization stands at above 70%. Compared to previously, it was hardly somewhere between 40 to 50% server utilization. And as we all know, servers are the most valuable assets of a data center. So this new architecture and this new technology has allowed this customer to get the most out of their most valuable asset of the data center. Next benefit here is the rapid troubleshooting. So Broadcom Silicon provides some unique deep visibility telemetry feature. And these features are exposed to enterprise customer by SONIC. And with these deep visibility features like iFind and Flow Analytics and MOD, this customer can rapidly troubleshoot an issue. They've heavily used this zero-touch provisioning capability in SONIC. And this capability has come really handy in this COVID era because most of their workforce is working from home. And last but not the least, they got all these benefits at a fraction of the cost compared to their previous OEM solution. So definitely a good success story so far. This is my last slide. So I would like to touch upon the industry analyst view on SONIC. Now, Gartner and IDC have been calling SONIC a potential Linux of networking for some time now. In this recent blog, this top bullet I have here, Gartner has made a very interesting prediction. Gartner is saying that by 2025, 40% of the organization that operate large data center networks, they will run SONIC in production environments. So that is in the next 4 years, SONIC is gonna be everywhere. Interesting prediction. In the end, I want to leave you with this thought. In the past, some of our customers, they faced hurdles on their journey to adopting open networking. But I strongly believe that with this unique architecture, its open management framework and large ecosystem of partners, SONIC is definitely paving the way for open networking. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to answering any question you may have in the Q&A section. And now it's back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Kamran. Some great points throughout your entire presentation. There were a few that were pretty interesting. One is the number of switches that are running across those 7 data centers in an enterprise. So you have an enterprise company running OCP accepted switches across 7 data centers using SONIC. And the second is how you had mentioned toward the end there with the key benefits about how it's increased your overall server utilization up towards 70% from 40 to 50% using legacy or traditional hardware. And then lastly, just the overall CapEx and how it was built using a fraction of the cost of a traditional OEM solution. So really enjoyed that, Kamran. Thank you very much. And now we will move on to the next section with Matt from Edgecore. Matt?
Thank you, Steve. I'll tell you a bit about Edgecore and our company and our products and what we're doing with SONIC. So Edgecore provides a full portfolio of open and traditional network platforms. Edgecore is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Acton Group. We are the branded business, the go-to-business arm of Acton, and Edgecore has been around since 2004. We specialize and we're leaders in open disaggregated networking, and there's lots of different models and technologies, and I'll talk about that in a second. Edgecore is headquartered in Taiwan, but we have offices in the US and Asia, and we have worldwide sales and support coverage, and we operate in most parts of the world. Okay, well, moving ahead, talk a little bit about our market leadership. So Edgecore has a very large investment in open networking, and typically the way we view our platforms and our sort of release and go to market, that one of the last things that we typically do is contribute our hardware designs to one or more of the open networking groups. So specifically here today, we're with OCP and Open Compute. We're very active in that community. And then we also work with and contribute designs to ONF, and we also work with telecom infra. So Edgecore to date has contributed 18 designs, and those range from, and they've been accepted, and those range from everything from wireless LAN access points to 1 gig, campus Ethernet wiring closet switches, to aggregation routers, to core routers, to cell site routers, to PON OLTs. So we're very active and by far the #1 vendor contributor for networking hardware designs. And when I say contribute, it's not just a specification or a PDF. It's the it's the spec, block diagram, schematic files, mechanical files, Gerber files for circuit boards. So it truly is completely open and available to through the OCP website or through ONF. And on the software side, we participate in several different areas. Obviously here today, we're talking about Sonic, and I'll give you some more info there. But we also participate in some of the other open NOS communities, such as DENT or Distributed Enterprise. We also have a very large and diverse software ecosystem, partner ecosystem. And that can also be things like network operating systems, or it can also be, or it also is, other value-added software, whether it's monitoring or orchestration, different value-added software functions. So we work very closely with that community to provide a complete solution. And then last on this slide, we definitely we build and ship a lot of hardware. So last year, Edgecore shipped more than 9 million ports of Ethernet switches and routers. So it's definitely a big focus for us, and we're very active here. Okay, next I'll talk about Edgecore's solution offering, and it really falls into 3 different categories. The first, and really where it all started with Edgecore and really with the industry, is around data center. So it started with hyperscale data center operators, embracing this disaggregated model and using open disaggregated hardware or white box switches, if you will, and using either their own in-house developed network operating system or some other network operating system. So that's really where it all started. We have a very strong portfolio here of data center leaf, spine, and super spine, and I'll talk more about that in a second. Also in this data center use case is optical packet transponder technology, so basically open optical line systems. And the use case here would be for data center interconnect, and there's also a use case in the telecoms space with backhaul. So there's optical packet transponder technology. And then last, an area where we're seeing a lot of traction recently is around edge switching. So think campus and branch switch devices. There's a particular strength with distributed retail, basically retail operators with large distributed stores, within a region or even around the world. And they're really embracing this open network movement as well, to be able to have them scale and expand and get all of the benefits that come from open networking with the freedom and the choice and total cost of ownership. So that's one main area there. The other area that we're very focused on for open networking is in the communication service provider or telco or telecom, whatever you want to call it. So as I think most people probably realize, that these network operators are under tremendous pressure to expand and grow and provide more capacity and more services. and really for it to be economically viable, and from a timing perspective for them to have the technology that they need available to them when they need it, they've really started embracing open networking. And for us, that really falls into a few different categories. Certainly on the mobile space, mobile backhaul space. So we've got a full line of platforms that fit there, and really use cases are just expanding capacity, just raw capacity for 3G and 4G networks. And then for the new 5G networks that are starting to roll out, there are new features and capabilities that are required to be able to support that, with things like microsegmentation and segment routing and time-sensitive networking, et cetera. So there's a whole bunch of new innovation and technology happening in that area. Second, within the telco space is broadband access. So us specifically, that is PON technology, either GPON or 10 gig symmetric XGS-PON, and then also aggregation routing as well as core routing. So it's really kind of gone through the full progression within the telco network. And then last here is traditional wired and wireless. So we've got a full line of 60 gigahertz wireless technology, as well as Wi-Fi, so Wi-Fi 6 access points, all managed and controlled with our open controller that we call EC Cloud, and that also manages our traditional wired platforms. And there's lots of different configurations and use cases. So that's just a quick overview of some of the solutions and where they fit and how they relate back to open networking. Okay, so I will jump ahead and talk a little bit about Edgecore and what we're doing with SONIC. So Kamran showed a great chart in his presentation showing where Broadcom was and their contributions. I did want to highlight that Edgecore is also contributing to the community, and for historical reasons, in this presentation that Microsoft did at OCP Global Summit, we're reported as both Edgecore and Acton. But if you sum those together, within this time slice, we were in the top 5 contributor from a company perspective. So we're certainly proud of that, and we're continuing to participate actively in the community. So essentially, what are we doing? What's Edgecore providing? It's really a hardened and validated SONIC distribution on a large number of our switch platforms, and that ranges from traditional 1RU pizza box type switches, also within modular switch platforms. And it sort of runs the gamut from an interface speed perspective all the way from 1 gig for data center management switches or possibly campus, all the way up through 400 gig. And the underlying technology there, the sort of horsepower under the hood is starting at 480 gig all the way up through the latest and greatest 12.8 terabit 400 gig Ethernet switch platforms. So that's the hardware that SONIC is running on, and that continues to expand. For us, we're continuing as we're developing new platforms where SONIC is relevant and has the features and capabilities. We're porting SONIC onto our newer hardware platform. So that will continue. And then the last piece is providing a comprehensive service and support offering. So for both the hardware, of course, which we've always done, but also now with SONIC as well. So that's a sort of a quick view of what's going on with Edgecore and SONIC. I won't go through the platforms in detail, but I thought it would be helpful to just share the diverse platforms and technology. And as I said, it sort of starts at 1 gig and goes all the way through our product portfolio, all the way up through the latest and greatest 400 gig Ethernet technology. I've listed ASIC models here. You can see we've got a very strong and strategic relationship with Broadcom, and we're basically supporting all of their Trident and Tomahawk families, and we'll continue as that progression of new silicon comes out for both Tridents and Tomahawks. We'll continue to provide support on those platforms. Okay, so we'll jump ahead here. And just give you a quick overview. So I talked about the service offering, just to give you a little bit more color in terms of what we're offering and what we're providing. Really falls into 4 main categories. Certainly the first and sort of the entry point is planning and design. So we can provide support for trials, we can help with network design, validation, staging, that sort of thing. We can also provide services in the deployment area. So whether it's project management, engineering expertise. We've also made a significant investment in what we call lab as a service. So we've basically got large scale hardware infrastructure that can run Sonic, that's available remotely, and you can do things like development, software development, testing, staging, see what happens during upgrades. So we offer that as a service, and the beauty there is you don't need to have your hands on the hardware or ship hardware all over the world. It's all available in a secured, highly resilient environment. And then the last 2 are around the sort of support services, post-sales service and support. So on the hardware side, that's standard RMA, maintenance, spare parts and depots, that sort of thing. And then on the software side, we're providing technical support service with multiple different offerings, providing troubleshooting, bug fixing, upgrades, and then just general professional services. So that's a quick summary, a quick overview of what Edgecore is providing from a service perspective with Sonic running on Edgecore hardware. And then I'll wrap up with just a few key thoughts, a few key takeaways. So certainly this is community sourced, but it's being provided, support's being provided by Edgecore. The beauty of this in open source is we're leveraging the worldwide community for Sonic, and we are contributing, and we're continuing to test and validate to make sure that it's truly ready for commercial deployments. Sonic today is definitely tailored for data center use cases, and Kamran walked through some great examples of that. We definitely see that expanding. The feature sets are expanding, and definitely Sonic will be used in environments outside of the data center. Again, what we're offering here is a single vendor approach, but using open community source software, and that in providing support for that, so we can eliminate some of that vendor finger pointing. And then really the last point is just the speed and the agility. So we're taking advantage of the community. Edgecore itself has a large investment. We're working with our partners, and we've got a great and strategic relationship with our silicon vendors, which allows us to have early access and really enables us to be first to market with innovative hardware designs with validated network operating systems, Sonic, running on top of that. So I will stop here. Thank you, and back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Matt. It's always great to see the range of contributions that Edgecore has across open networking, as well as Edgecore being one of the top 5 contributors to the Sonic ecosystem. And all of those platform devices that Matt shared are OCP accepted. And that just shows you their level of commitment. All of those devices are also available to view on our OCP marketplace. So let's move on to the last speaker today, Łukasz from Stordis. So over to you, Łukasz.
Thanks, Steve. So let's go to my part. I don't want to show our whole Stordis history, because the company been founded in fact in 2007, but it will be exciting to show you how we've been starting our journey with the open networking. So in fact, we are like the one of the potentially oldest open networking distributor here in Europe, and in fact also one of the largest partner of Edgecore, if we are talking about the Edgecore products and open networking. So the journey we started in 2014. That was when Stordis been signing the contract with Edgecore, and just a year after, we had some first success related with the SDN project. One was related with the telco space as the introduction. First, let's say, meetings and the proof of concept. And also the same year, 2015, we've been going over a project related with the broadcast, streaming broadcast television. In 2017, we started our Stordis Academy. That is something really exciting as a company. Up to now, we are providing P4 programming training. In general, our academy is growing, and we are also adding the other topics. In the same year, in 2017, we've been funding our office in UK. I maybe didn't mention that about that, but our headquarters is located in Stuttgart, in Germany. But we also do have a mentioned office in UK. In 2018, we've been designing our own programming switches. That is, I believe, also pretty unique, like for, let's say, a typical distributor. And today, those switches are better known under the APS network brand. Moving forward and going to 2020. So in 2020, this is where we ramp out our SONIC activities. We've been watching the whole project very carefully, basically from the beginning. Same year, last year, we started with our remote SONIC lab. So also if someone would like to put their hands on, play with the SONIC, this is what definitely we can help. The lab is located in Stuttgart. We are right now working on another one located in our UK office. But also, beside that lab and the remote access, we are working as we speak on more like a mobile rack. So this is like a smaller rack with 12 or 14 inches with the leaf and spine and switches inside with some servers, with the pre-installed SONIC environment where it could be ready to send to where it is needed. It's a special rack which could stay in the transport with those all shock vibration system. In 2021, even that we are just starting the Q2, I would say that this first quarter was very busy for us. So we started to going into next phase with some developments of the SONIC software tools. So we are playing a little bit on the open source, thinking how to integrate some tools like Prometheus, Grafana, and so on. Also, this year we've been introducing our own switch to open product range. So I have on mine like a certified or tested with a different bare metal hardware options and different software options. Optics, transceiver, also cables like a DEC cables and active optical cables. We also are really focusing on our partners. So we are starting and we are promoting our Stordis Switch to partner program, where basically for some of our reseller system integrators, we are able to provide some extra benefits related with, for example, special layers agreements for the warranty. And not only, if someone is interested to get more information, please feel free to just reach out directly to me. I mentioned it a little bit about the support, about the SLA, about the warranty. So we realized that one of the challenge in open networking, if we are taking a look on, for example, portfolio coming from Edgecore, software like a SONIC, is some lack of the services which we know well from the traditional world. So this is why we do have some SLA options called open to support. There is 3 different levels, like a smart, advanced, and premium, where, for example, if someone would like to have hardware with a next business day advantage replacement, or maybe some special reaction time, it's everything which is available under those services. And as a new coming hopefully soon, we would like to have some extra training levels related with our academy. So not only those one mentioned about the P4 or SDN or maybe different commercial software in specific, but also pure SONIC one, which will be very exciting. So where we are going as a company, we would like to go 100% to the open source, because we really believe in the open source and the open community. We have open hardware, we have a great open source project like the SONIC. There is a lot of tools which could be integrated, and really the future is there. So what other services we can provide? Of course, consultancy is one of those. So if someone is struggling how to do potentially, I don't know, migration of the existing network, existing infrastructure to the open networking, we are here definitely to help you. If someone is struggling with the design aspect, another good service where we are feeling very comfortable to provide that kind of the support. Same as the needed integration or mentioned support. But once again, which maybe is worth to mention, we are focusing fully on the networking. So we made that decision a few years ago that we are not touching basically any server or the storage business. Our DNA, our future is, and also our great focus is simply networking and only open networking. So community is the key. I saw that my colleagues already been showing some of those. Of course, today we have a pleasure to be hosted under the Open Compute project. And beside that, we are also trying to be active in those other mentioned and showed here. Me personally, I am also supporting the ONF Open Network Foundation as an A-Team ambassador. But we are also trying to be active with those other activities, or, for example, taking a look what is happening under the DEN project, which seems to be also pretty attractive. Maybe it's not progressing so dynamic as a SONIC, definitely not yet, but it is also good to have them on track. So we are saying that the business needs to base on the trust. So we trust our partners trust us. We are working with Edgecore, we are working with Broadcom, we are working with Intel. We are also working with the other pieces and pieces to create our solution. So really depends, different operation software systems, different management layers. But also, as we can see on that right side, the open source community and different aspects of the open source. So freedom, as someone say, and I have on my Albert Camus, freedom is nothing else but a chance to be better. So let's be better together. And that will be everything from my side. I really appreciate. Let's start the Q&A session.
Great. Thank you very much, Łukasz. I think one of the great things about Stordis is the way that you've pivoted a lot of your business around this open networking roadmap, and the way that you highlighted the SONIC tools, the SONIC programs, the SONIC labs that you have in place. It'll be really interesting to see what you do over the next few years as that roadmap takes shape. So I believe we have everyone here. Kamran is available. His webcam decided to not work right now, but he is available as we work through Q&A. So we really appreciate everyone's attention. We do have quite a few questions, so we'll get to as many as we can. And if those that do go unanswered, we will follow up with email responses. So the first question is for, Matt on this one here. So does Edgecore offer a commercially supported model?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. That's definitely one of the key things and the key value adds that we're providing is a SONIC distribution that's from the community, but has been fully tested and validated, and we share test reports and what things we've found. So it's a very solid starting point, and then we're also providing and wrapping around a service and support offering. And there's two parts to that, certainly directly from Edgecore and our team, and then depending on the engagements or the requirements, we will also leverage our partners like Stordis. So Łukasz kind of talked about a number of the different offerings that Stordis has. So it's both sort of a validated and hardened offering, and then the sort of design installation services and all of the post-installation support that goes along with that.
Okay, and Lucas, just on your commercially supported offering, then you'll work with people like Edgecore and Broadcom, is that correct?
Yes, we can say that definitely we're working very closely with especially with Edgecore. So as a distributor, we have the access to the whole range open networking products. This is the one, but also here locally, we are trying to fill the gaps, which unfortunately been missing in the open networking world. Like for example, some SLA, even next business day advances replacement, something like that was a challenge in the past. So we decided to fill those gaps. So for example, if someone needs some special SLA, maybe even with some reaction time, this is everything what we can very easily provide to our partners locally, directly, or even of our, let's say, over our partner network. That is the one. Second, mention at the lab. So if someone would like to go over a proof of concept, we can support that as well. Both doing that remotely in our lab in Stuttgart or in UK, or maybe just sending mention at mobile rack. So a special rack which will stay, heavily over the transport with leaf and spine combination based on the latest Trident 3 switches with a SONIC with some servers to play. Yeah.
Okay. Kamran, any thoughts on what services or commercial support that Broadcom provides?
So hopefully you can hear me. I know you can't see me.
Yes.
All right. So Broadcom model is partner-led. So the Broadcom focus is to enable the ecosystem partners to support and promote SONIC and open networking. So we are working with our partners like Dell, like Edgecore, like IPI, and so on.
Okay, great. So the next question here, as I look through the list, Kamran, you'd mentioned that enterprises are adopting SONIC. So the question here is, what kinds of enterprises? Are they just the web scale type of companies, or what industries are also looking at SONIC?
So the example I gave earlier, it's a manufacturing company, right? So manufacturing sector is looking at it. We have a university who are planning to deploy in summer. We also see a lot of interest from FSI. Most of them are in the POC validation stage at the moment, but we are expecting some of them to go in production before the end of the year.
Okay. And just a question, a follow-up question on that, then how, as you look at these universities and these financial services, how big are their teams? And that question could go to Matt and Łukasz. How big of a team do you need to run Sonic?
So if I can start on that, and obviously Matt and Łukasz can chip in. So I believe that with all the orchestration tool, with all these automation tools available now for Sonic, managing a Sonic estate has become a lot simpler. So you do not need, I think there is a misconception. I wrote a blog on that as well some time back. There is a misconception, I would say, that you need to have a team of software engineers to manage a Sonic state, Sonic switches. That is not the case at all, right? With the management framework we have now in Sonic, it is as simple to run Sonic-based solution as any other OEM solution. CLI is, very customer-friendly, very user intuitive. We have support for SNMP, and we have support for automation tools. So what we see is that now Sonic is 100% enterprise ready. So if you are already an enterprise who are running a network with any solution, you are now okay and ready to adopt Sonic.
Okay. Matt, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I just wanted to highlight another use case outside of traditional data center that we at Edgecore are seeing a lot of traction in, and that is retail, distributed retail. So, retail operators that have, either regionally or globally, many, thousands of locations, and they've really focused on Sonic as a solution for that. And that's, sort of two different examples. One would be, a large company that has an early investment, sort of hyperscale type customer, early investment in white box switching, and they've perfected that in their hyperscale data centers, and they're replicating that model out in retail stores. So that's one example, and others are just large big box retailers that really see the benefits there. And I guess back to the resources and what it takes. So I definitely agree with Kamran there. There's a lot of automation tools that can make this scale and make this feasible to roll out without having a massive engineering staff. So that retail is a very particularly strong vertical that we see within Edgecore.
Great. Well, that takes us right up to the top of the hour, and so there's a few other questions here, so my apologies to the audience. There's questions here on programmability, some other feature type of questions. We'll be sure to email those answers to the audience. But any final words from Łukasz, Matt, Kamran, anything to the audience that you want to leave them with? Any final points?
Yes, so those mentioned, let's say, beside the typical data center environment opportunities cases, they are really exciting. This is really exciting to see where the Sonic is going in general. Yeah. So starting, of course, in the typical data center space, which seems to be the most easy to manage, but going to mention it retail area, multiple application. Okay, still some features are missing, like for example, power over Ethernet. Something very, very easy and obviously from the traditional world, but also hopefully soon implemented under the Sony project. But the excitement, I believe the real excitement will come when the Sony will start to adopting more and more features related with the telco requirements. And I'm sure that this is where the whole project is also going. We saw that on the last OCP Tech Week. There was a very interesting presentation coming from the Metaswitch guys, from the Microsoft, showing the Sonic future.
Great. Matt?
Yeah, so I definitely echo what Łukasz said about the feature set is expanding. So we see, many use cases, and we see, many interesting contributions. Łukasz mentioned PoE. There's other things with in modular chassis, hot swappability, some of the maybe older but necessary, layer 2, protocols that are required. So we definitely see it, expanding and lots of community effort. I guess the other point I'd like to make is that SONIC is real and here, and it's deployable, and you don't have to be Microsoft Azure, to roll this out. We've got many customers at a much smaller scale that are taking this, trialing it, and putting it into production. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's a very good takeaway. Kamran, you have the last word. Not sure if you can hear us or not, or if you may be on mute.
I was on mute, yeah. So now I was saying that, Matt exactly summed it up in the way I wanted to sum it up as well. So you don't have to be a mega scaler to adopt SONIC, right? SONIC is available. It is ready. Just get your hands dirty and start deploying it, start playing around with it. Some people have been asking me in the past, how we can, get some training on it, how we can, learn how to use SONIC. I am running a YouTube channel. It's called Love to Network. And on that, I create some short how-to videos for SONIC. So if you want to see, how easy it is to run your network on SONIC, you can go on YouTube and look for it.
That's great. I encourage everyone to check that channel out, and we'll be probably including that in one of the links on the post recording as well. So my appreciation to the 3 members within OCP, Stordis, Edgecore, and Broadcom. We really appreciate your community involvement and your leadership in open networking. My thanks to everyone that attended, and we hope you found this educational and informative, and we will be posting this recording on our YouTube channel as well, along with the slide deck for download. So with that, we will end today's session, and thanks again, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.